program is produced using the resources of Public Media Network in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Learn more at publicmedianet.org.
Welcome to Connecting Communities, a podcast about the environment where we live, work, and play. We talk with individuals from our community and the greater Kalamazoo area who have a positive impact. I'm your co-host, Patrick Kirschner with G. Sheldon.
Hello.
And today we're joined with members of KYD Net, Jane Asamudu. Jane, hi, nice to see you.
Hey, nice to see you.
Janika Walker.
Hello.
And Abra Smith.
Hi.
Well, welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the invite.
Tell us a little bit, KYD Net in a paragraph. What would you say it means to you?
KYD Network to me means community. It means community, collaboration, connection, and quality.
Janika?
I would say coming together, community, thriving, all youth, and including adults, the people who work with youth, families, and quality.
For myself, I definitely third community, but I would also say KYD Network means opportunity, access, working advocacy, working towards anti-racism, and just being present in spaces where we are needed as a community. So, yeah.
A lot of what I saw, when I looked at the website today, was the after-school aspect of this, or the summer programming. Can you kind of just talk about where you're going in the 2025 season?
Where are we going? Woo! Okay. Yes, so we call ourselves the out-of-school time sector. So that includes after-school programming, before-school programming, and summer, and a little bit of in-school programming, just a little dabbling, but anything kind of outside of K-12, but still dealing with youth in those age groups. And so, yeah, we hope to bring after-school programs together. That is a network part of our name, to collaborate, share resources, share training, and to make sure that everyone, no matter where you are in the community, a youth can receive high-quality programming. And so we use a lot of tools and assessments to help make those data-driven decisions in order for programs to continuously improve and get better. So, yeah. It's a lot, but Abra was mentioning earlier when we were getting set up that summer is our season because summer programming is so huge because there's no school. So yeah, we're gearing up for summer. We're gearing up for summer planning, as well as we have some projects happening in the summer as well. So yeah.
Before we go too far in, you guys all have these amazing shirts on that say "Be the Domino."
Yes.
What does that mean?
So be the domino is a phrase from Lovey Ajayi Jones. And so it really means just being the first to make the move, to do maybe the hard thing that others are not doing to get things moving. And so for us, that could mean, in equity work or in social emotional learning, or even lately we've had a really strong push for wellness. So really being a example, for what workplace wellness looks like and things like that too. So just being the first to step out there and then to allow all the dominoes to fall from there to make change happen.
They're cool shirts, and I
Thank
love
you.
them.
Thank you.
Building bridges.
Yes, building bridges.
In this time of needed community, I think that building bridges is a must. It's not even an option at this point.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
And a part of that too is so it's the building bridges to thriving youth. And so we recognize how important it is for multiple sectors to come together to support youth thriving. So it's not just school, it's not just out of school time, but it's housing, it's transportation, it's the healthcare sector. So, it really takes the whole community coming together to help youth to thrive.
Well, it's interesting too, because when one of those fails, and it can just take everything else out. And it's so hard to build that back up, unless you have some needed support. And is that something you kind of assist with or guide?
Yes. So we try to be intentional of just being that domino, that bridge of when one thing fails, we try to go out and find a different resource of how we can pick each other up. What can we do to provide different resources to our programs, to our people, to help and to kind of fill that void, or fill that spot that is needed. So,
And Kalamazoo is resource rich.
yes.
So even if a barrier like healthcare is going down in one area, we can still find money and resources to make sure that it can be lifted up. So it's that collaboration and that teamwork that is needed to make sure it can, stay afloat.
I find, I work in a field where I talk to a lot of community members every day, and that's really it, is having those resources, being able to guide people to those resources is so important, because you may know where those resources are, but the general public may not have any idea first how to even look for it, who to go to.
Exactly.
And it's really helpful to have those guiding sources.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And when you're in need too, it is like so hard to do anything really, and navigating systems is like so complicated and overwhelming. It sounds like you all are a partner for folks to help them navigate that, but I'm also thinking about how do you do that starting from the kids, because the kids aren't really the ones tackling this. If a kid has a housing issue, how are you then getting to their housing issue? I'm thinking their parents or guardian or whoever are the adults in their life.
Yeah, so you're correct. So we don't actually work directly with the youth day to day. We support the adults that work with youth and youth programs. And so each of our coaches are assigned to an organization. Relationships are built. And so like in that instance with housing, through the relationship, the coach connecting with the organization, the staff may mention that this housing issue is happening. And so then we would go out to try to help and provide resources for that, or put our minds together, and really pool our resources together to support.
So are you like at a high level, like the connector?
Yes.
Is that what your organization needs to be?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're the glue on the bridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So one of my favorite events that we do is called Action Friday. And so we usually host them once a month. And it's so cool to see so many people from all over the community come together. It's just really exciting. There's like high energy in the room. We usually have a certain topic that we're tackling, like a barrier that we want to bust together, that's hindering or impacting youth. There's usually a time for organizations to share, who they are, what they have going on. And so that is part of the networking that happens, and how we connect each other and we get to know what each other is doing in the community. There's also, we take action, around whatever that topic is. So there's a lot of discussion, and then we leave with some type of action that's taking place there. And so it's just really about building transformational relationships, and then being able to see how, we can support each other along the journey.
Can you give me an example of an organization that you worked with last year that might have been new to your org, but then how that kind of transitioned for both parties?
Well, actually, so I was here a couple of months ago with the Kalamazoo River Watershed Council, and that has been like an amazing, amazing opportunity, amazing partnership. And well, they're actually a part of the cohort as well. But just having them in space now, and now they are like a connecting piece where, we have certain orgs that's like, actually, we would like to get connected with them. We would like to have our youth come over and paddle, and kayak. And so even that starts to build that community, that relationship, right? That transformation relationship where it was like, well, we didn't even know we even had access to that at first, but now we do, right? So when we do that Action Friday, we have those different groups coming together. It's like, oh no, we can all come together and share resources and also build relationship as well. So
Cool.
yeah.
You're part of a small group of people that are the second time on the pod.
Yeah.
Club, yes.
Yeah.
But that is so cool because it also increases your capacity, right?
Yes.
You all aren't needing to be the everything for the kids and families. You're empowering these other
Yes.
groups and organizations and leaders in the community to do right by these kids and families,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think every adult that works with youth has a passion, just a natural love for youth. But we really support with increasing the skills of the adults that are working with youth, so that the environment, the atmosphere that the youth are in with them can really be a robust, atmosphere. And the ultimate outcome being social emotional learning skills being improved so that youth know how to have positive relationships with themselves, with others. And so along with having those transformational relationships and all the fun things that we do, data is a huge piece too. So we're able to support organizations. We go in and do observations where we're just kind of a guide on the side. There are certain things sometimes that you don't necessarily see when you're doing a youth program, and so we're able to be that extra set of eyes. And then we simply give that data to them, and we have a conversation that we call Planning with Data. They're able to go through that and celebrate, oh wow, we didn't realize that we were doing this and we did this really well. The youth feel really safe here in our program. And then we look for areas that they are excited to grow in and want to improve. And so that improvement happens specifically from that data. And so they'll create a goal, and then the rest of the year we'll go in and support them with coaching and training and technical assistance about those specific goals. And that is what helps to improve the program over time.
I noticed that was when I was on the website earlier, that you had a lot of you had trackers that just kind of went to a percentage point of where you were at with a certain topic. Yeah, it was really cool.
And that's the quality too. You are QAing. You guys are quality assurance for these groups and your evaluators. That is that's really cool. Do you get paid for this? Like, do they pay you? Because this is like consultant, business consultant, how do you?
Well, no, we don't get paid for it. The point for me, I'll just speak for myself. From my perspective, it's about eliminating the gatekeeping around resources. And a lot of time funders ask for information. So we collect the data. We're able to collect the data for them. We're able to give them the data, and then they can use it in any way that they, deem fit. If it means, hey, our goal is we want student leaders, we're gonna write that in a grant. We have data to show you. Thank you, Kid Network. Here you go, funders. Wow. It's just eliminating that kind of barrier for the programs, especially the more grassroots programs in the community, if we can, partner with them too.
Well, that's so important too, because I am not, I am well aware of how much information is requested when looking for assistance, depending on the source. And if you're new to that, it's a whole lot, especially if you didn't plan on knowing what information you needed from the last year.
Yes.
That's a big deal. That can be a showstopper.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we buy the tools and then we give it to the cohort. So
And not only with that, but we also have the data, we see it, but then we also serve as that guide. And when we say serve as that guide, we also, like as a coach, we go in and say, hey, with the data, we set certain goals. So you have the different program quality goals. And let's say so we have like Hello Insight, and that if they have like a certain social emotional learning skill that they want to work on. So it's like, well, how do we meet certain goals? Like, like if a certain youth development advocate don't know like what kind of lessons or what type of activities we can do to kind of get to that. It's like, okay, well, actually we can go and look up a resource, or we can put together an activity and come and help you, and serve as that guide to get you there. So it's not just like, I'm the type of person that also believe it takes a village. So it goes back to that community and relationships too. So we're not just like, here, there you go, but it's like, we're also still here, to kind of serve alongside too. But that's that serving alongside piece.
You've mentioned cohort members a couple of times.
Yes.
What's the difference between a community partner and a cohort?
Good question. So cohort members, we specifically assign them a coach, and so that person is there with them throughout the year to build those relationships and with the data piece that we mentioned. And so cohort members are able to receive data. They participate in our affinity groups as well. So affinity groups are around a certain topic that people want to dig deeper into and really want to be on the cutting edge of. And so they meet together to talk about those topics. And community partners are they may not be youth serving directly. Some of them are, but they're passionate about seeing youth thrive as well. And so we partner with each other to support each other's goals in that way, but it's not necessarily a data exchange.
How does that cohort come about? Like, is that just organic, where you recognize there's a need, or someone reaches out to you, or?
I think over time, and you guys feel free to add on to this. So Kid Network started back in 2000. We were a program. We had maybe a couple organizations that were connected at that time. Eventually it grew to like 7 organizations, and then over the years it's grown to 50 to 60 organizations that we work with. And so I think it's really been organic, like word of mouth. Again, it's really about relationships, and so as those relationships are built, that trust is built, they see that we're really here to just support. Every service is free that we provide. And so I think the word of mouth is really what has helped things to grow.
I concur.
Yeah. As you said, when you went on the website, like, I see you guys do a lot. It's like, yeah. So it's like, okay, where's Kid Network? Let me go see.
Yeah.
Well, and I've been definitely, as an artist and just an individual living in the area, very aware of your presence, for years, but it's interesting to see, like, how many organizations you work with, or just people, organizations combined. That's grown quickly.
Yeah, it has, yeah. Meg Blinkevich was our executive director for 10 years, and she was very pivotal to helping to build that design as well. And so we have systems set in place, and we just kind of follow those systems that work, and I think that's what, helps with that growth.
Going back to the summer programs, there was something we talked about before the pod started, the National Day of Summer Learning.
One of our core values is make space and take space, so we want to try to make sure everybody has an even amount of space to talk.
So I'll take it. So a big part of Kid Network's mission and work is advocacy. And so we have 2 really big national advocacy events a year. One of them is National Day of Summer Learning. It takes place during National Week of Summer Learning, I guess. But yeah, it is July 17th here in Kalamazoo, and it's just bringing in these organizations that we're talking about, our partners, our cohort members, and really showing to the community, like, this is the importance of summer learning. This is what summer learning is for. We invite everybody, especially our cohort members, to come and it's really just a party in the park. But there's, elements of all the work that everybody is doing together to, make sure that our youth are thriving.
Where's that at? Where will it be held?
Bronson Park. Bronson Park will be there. And we also have one in Battle Creek for our Calhoun County cohort members the following day. So we're going to have 2 celebrations, but it's our 10th year this year.
Oh, great.
So of National Day of Summer Learning. So we are really, I don't know how big it's going to be. That's not my committee.
It's a good time.
It's a vibe. It's a good time. But really, it's just, we have to be realistic about what's going on in the political climate, especially with around funding.
Sure.
So it's just letting people know, like, we need to have these summer programs in place. They're so important for our community.
You mentioned Battle Creek and Calhoun County. Do you service both Kalamazoo and Calhoun counties?
Yes. And we dabble in the lakeshore a little bit too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you initially start in Kalamazoo, or did that just kind of naturally grow to the other areas?
Yeah, we've been in Calhoun County for about the past 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
So really, again, like that word of mouth bubbling over, there were some organizations in Calhoun County that were interested in connecting with the cohort, and we're driving out, to different events and trainings that we had. And we started having conversations about, is this something that you would want in the Calhoun County area? And so it's something that several organizations mentioned they wanted. And so we have been building in Calhoun County since that time. So we have about 7 cohort members there now, and several partners in Calhoun County.
Well, in our communities, we have a lot of similarities, but we're very unique to our own spaces. Just different, history of industry, etc. That both Kalamazoo and Battle Creek have had kind of together. We're only 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
So close, but such different, uniquely beautiful communities. So
My father worked in Battle Creek when I was much younger for the post office. So
Okay.
we would always go to Battle Creek for certain things, and then we were in Kalamazoo for a lot of art stuff and what have you. But I mean, the resources are there in both communities. They're just very different and very specific to their communities.
yeah, absolutely.
And since we're speaking about Battle Creek, and talking about the summer, we also have our Fun Fridays coming up for the summer that we're excited about, which is our collaboration with Battle Creek Public Schools Bearcat Blast. So we basically coordinate field trips for their youth that are enrolled into their summer school programming. So we're excited about that. We've been doing the planning and getting some things set up. So our theme this year is social justice. So we've been getting that coordinated, getting our staff together and everything for that. So I'll be looking forward to that. But yeah, we're excited about that.
What are some of the summer programs here? Are you ready to highlight anything yet?
I know, I'm like, give us a sneak peek, let us know what you guys are doing. Social justice, I mean, that's a big topic too for, I mean, we're talking kids, right? Like, so, yeah, what have you got them doing? Can you tell us, sir?
Well, right now we just have a few field trips planned that we're going to do, but we're working on project-based learning project that we'll be doing towards the end. So the plan now is initially where throughout the field trip. So I could just throw out that we plan on going to a couple of museums. Don't want to be specific. But through the different field trips that we do have planned, we'll have like different reflection questions and activities tailored around it towards the end. And then we'll come together from the experience. And at the end, put together, a social justice theme and see what they get out of it. But it will be all their ideas.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be a domino, I feel like, for like years. You know what I mean? That's going to be very impactful. I think,
Yes.
And youth voices, really the main reason we exist. We want, youth voices to be heard. And a lot of times people think about, okay, well, they're kids or, they can't talk about this topic or that topic. But, it's important for them to talk about the issues and the systemic issues, especially that impact them. And so this is one way that we'll do that. We talk about critical youth development. It's a concept that comes from Bianca Baldridge and Merle McGee. And so basically it is helping adults to feel comfortable talking with youth about racism, sexism, like I said, other things that impact youth. In a way that helps them to be able to, have voice and make change in their community. And so pairing that along with resiliency skills, because of course talking about those topics can be hard and can elicit different things. And so we also partner to support resiliency skills and self-care skills along with that. But it's important for youth, it's impacting them. They're processing things. And so it's important for them. It's not something you can necessarily do in school, so what better space than the out-of-school time sector to have a safe space to be able to talk about what's impacting you and heal through what's impacting you and make a change, through what's impacting youth.
I mean, it's not like kids live in a bubble.
Right.
We're all going through life from our own circumstances and how the world is influencing those circumstances. And I mean, that's really important to have that. I would imagine to just have a guidance that has some calm to it, and a point of view where you can at least, point people in a direction that's positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And growth effective. I mean, like that's, gosh, we need that.
And that's really like the power of out of school time for me is to be able to go in depth without the high stakes of testing. So really going into those social justice issues that are important to them and that they can, put their voice in, their planning in it. So that's what I really value about the work that we do.
Yeah, and it becomes more than, it's more than just an after school program, more than just a summer program, more than just a fun space to be. But really a liberatory learning environment. Like, they're learning, through connecting with each other, building relationships, having these conversations, and, the specific topics and themes that the programs have. But it's about liberation for youth. So,
Yeah, that is awesome. Because, they don't like, kids aren't dumb and they're often treated like they are. So everything you're saying is just like, you definitely know kids and what they're needing to grow.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the social emotional development. So can you, I think that's along the same vein of what you're saying, right? Is about how I've often heard other people who come on here talk about their programs and talk about how it might look like we're just letting kids play with a ball, but really we're helping with social emotional development. Can you talk some more about that and how that plays into your program planning?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to take the lead on it? I'll go, but.
So SEL, social emotional learning, are really just the skills outside of academics. So social skills, self-management, self-awareness, relationship, decision-making. And so we think that those need to be as much of the forefront as STEM in learning, and especially in building those liberatory learning environments that Abra just mentioned. And so we actually have a data tool that we use called Hello Insight. Janiqua mentioned it earlier, to help our organizations have a base, see the base of where their students are, because it's a self-assessment for the youth to take. And then through learning, the overall general view of the group, deciding on like what skills do we need to kind of add or supplement in the activities that we already are doing to help them build those skills. And so a lot of the recommendations that you'll get from the assessment is engaging authentically. And so that's identity to us, as well as belonging, because when you are able to show your group who you are and who you believe you are and the things that make you who you are, maybe they'll feel the same way about themselves and be able to share about themselves. So engaging authentically is a big recommendation from that, as well as promoting peer bonds. Community is really big in these programs. It's hard when you walk into let's be real, walk into a meeting and no one asks you what your name is. You're like, okay, whatever, click, 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 click. But when you intentionally promote community building, promote those building of those peer bonds, you can see how that can help you in your later life. I often say to them that, at least I used to often say to them that I probably needed an after school program. I probably needed a community outside of school that I can go more in depth with. And then organically those other skills just kind of get built up along the way, hopefully. If the adults and the staff are intentional about adding that into whatever they're doing.
Yeah, the intentionality is a huge piece, because you can be sitting here at the table playing Legos, so again, that looks like you're just playing Legos, but as you're doing that and you're building it with other people, you're building your social connection, you're building your communication skills, and so we can make that explicit. One of the programs we work with, at the end of whatever activity they do for the day, they always go back to the social emotional learning chart they have, and they ask the youth, so how did one of these skills show up for you today? How were you socially aware today? How are you self-aware? How did you make responsible decisions, on what you did? And so actually having those conversations and making it explicit is what really helps too. So it could be any, project or activity. And social emotional learning, is being developed, and it can be discussed, and youth can be aware of what they're learning that way.
We're dealing with so many tools, cell phones, if you're listening, where it's almost counter to that,
so
where you're fighting against it. And social emotional learning, you're dealing with how you collaborate with people, how you not only understand yourself, but other people and your reactions to conflict. And so many things. And to get an early start on that is really important.
I was actually working in Japan at one point, and something they had in their elementary schools was almost like, I can't translate it well, but it was like morality class or something, but it was essentially they would have different scenarios and just have the students respond to that. How would you respond in this scenario? And that was part of their elementary schooling, and I'm like, imagine if we even tried to do that here. Like, what would you do in this situation? What are the skills that you would use to resolve this or whatever? And so to me, that's really the core of social emotional learning, is like that resilience, that how you react, how you are built emotionally as well. and understanding that. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's huge. That really creates that empathy too.
Yeah.
That awareness. I feel like I don't know about you guys too, but I feel like with the work that we do, it translates to home too. I feel like I've become a better mom, even by being around all that we talk about and actually do. Like I've noticed that I incorporate my children's voices more. Like I ask them, questions about what they want to do instead of just making, decisions for them. And so just incorporating their voices, even builds up those SEL skills. So it really helps across the board.
Yeah. It's like in actuality, what we're doing is just becoming more intentional and aware of building those everyday life skills, right?
Yeah.
So we actually, with social emotional learning, like that's the title, was like we're now sitting down and saying like, no, this is actually what we're doing every day, but now we're being more intentional and becoming aware about it.
Also, and we can, I know a lot of people think about SEL as like a program or like, a specific time to do something. But one of the messages, that I hope, we help shed light on is that SEL is everywhere. It's literally in everything that we do. And so to normalize that and to just have conversations about how you're feeling about things and, your relationships and your communication is SEL, and it's everywhere. It's in math, it's in science, it's in everything that we do. So.
I mean, I feel like it was definitely something that came out of
higher education, and it has a title, etc. But I mean, you're not wrong. It is just how we work with each other, how we understand each other ourselves. I mean, like those are necessary skill sets that a lot of times
there's a void there.
Yeah.
we're not all the same at all. I know what coffee does to my body.
How many cups to have or none at all.
Exactly. Awareness.
Yes.
Right. Right, but you're absolutely right. I mean, businesses are looking at those soft skills before even other types of skills, and so it is extremely important. But it's everywhere. And just philosophically, though, like, could you say though that like you're either teaching children positive social emotional learning or you're teaching them negative, so at least be intentional about it and make sure that you're working to make it positive, or is that not correct in my thinking?
Yeah, not necessarily negative or positive, but just helping them to be more aware, of what's happening with their own bodies, and minds, building that empathy to be aware of what's happening with others, helping them to just be more intentional about the decisions that they're making, and things like that too. So just the awareness, I think one way that we try to simplify SEL, Castle, they're like the guru of social emotional learning. They narrowed it down to identity, belonging, and agency that Jane kind of mentioned earlier. And so all 5 of the SEL skills can be summed up in those 3 areas. And so really helping youth to have a strong sense of who I am, and a confidence in that, like a positive, sense of identity. And then it's important for youth to have a place where they can belong. So these out of school time programs, oftentimes are that place of belonging. And then when I feel like I do belong, it allows me to then take action, about the things that are important to me in life and, move on to build my skills and to have impact in the community. So we call it IBA. It's for everyone, for youth and adults, but a strong identity, belonging, and agency.
Did we talk about the Community Peace Project yet?
We have not.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What is Community Peace Project?
So the Community Peace Project was really birthed out of a lot of the community violence that has happened over the past few years, especially. Just this past week, there were 2 young men that were shot and killed in Kalamazoo. And so it's something that, of course, is near and dear to, our hearts in the community. And so we wanted to find a way that, kind of building on SEL skills in a way too, to equip youth and adults with resiliency skills. So what's happening in my body and how might that be impacting like my nervous system? Maybe my fight, flight, or freeze is going off. And so what are some simple things that I can do to bring balance to my body, balance to my nervous system, which would then help me to make better decisions and kind of, we call it being in your thinking brain. We know that when you're in fight, flight, or freeze, your thinking brain shuts down, your emotions go out of whack, and the fight, flight, or freeze is on. And so these skills from the community resiliency model really help to bring balance and awareness in the body. And so the premise is teaching youth those skills and allowing them to be able to share those skills with other people in their communities so that, one, we can all learn to self-regulate, but then also so that when these incidences do happen in the community, that there are youth equipped to support their own peers through these simple skills to strengthen their resiliency and their nervous system. So I don't know if I was heavily engaged in the Community Peace Project. We have like different departments and things, but you guys want to add anything that you just were aware of or noticed, from the Community Peace Project?
I just think it leans into the domino piece. We teach the skills to a group of youth, and we just hope that it becomes that domino throughout the community. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what really happens out of Community Peace Project. I think it's going to be, it's needed, it's necessary.
Yeah. And there are other, I'm sorry. There are other organizations in the community, of course, that are focusing on, the community violence intervention. We like to call it peace, because that's what we want to see happen. And so right now, we're working to collaborate with them so we can be a unified voice to really hear from the people that have been impacted directly. And the community skills or community resiliency skills will be one of the things that we implement, but we know that it takes more, than that too, just hearing from the people and seeing what other resources they need. But this is a really foundational tool that can be used to support too.
So kind of what I'm hearing as I'm also browsing your website is that you're promoting youth leadership.
Yes. Absolutely.
What does that look like to you when you have youth that do come to the forefront? How do you help them to go further? How do you make them leaders or help them to be their own leaders?
I say, for one, we allow them to be leaders. Letting them have a voice, letting them take agency, and literally just creating that space of IBA, that identity belonging in an agency where they can authentically be themselves. They can say, hey, this is who I am, these are our needs, this is what I see in my community, and this is what we say that, this is why I see my peers struggling, and these are our needs, this is what we believe will help our community. And we are actually promoting and going out and getting the resources that they say that they need. Not trying to say, oh no, we think you need this, we think that, no. This is what they're saying that their peers need, and we're allowing them the space to say and to do so.
Yeah. I know in certain generations that still trickle into today, the phrase is like, youth should be seen and not heard. And so we really, we really want to nix that. And so we want them to know that their voices are important. Be heard. What do you have to say? What you have to say is really important and adds value, And so I think, as Janico said, that's where youth leadership starts, with their voices being heard and them realizing. One of our team members, she started with us when she was 20 years old. Just a brilliant individual. And we've just seen her like grow and develop over the years and see her be empowered in her voice. She's been on several stages now. She gets calls all over the place to be on different panels. And it's making a huge impact in the community. And now she's only 22. But, her voice is powerful, it's strong. And youth need to know that they have power within them and that what they have to say is important, that it should be heard. And so, that's where youth leadership begins, that your voice is powerful. And let's pair that with these social emotional learning skills so that you can have healthy, positive, strong connections, with other people to make change happen.
Well, I think, I don't know if there's an agreement, but I personally think that there is a need for youth leadership.
Yes.
We are struggling with just the same old from parties that refuse to find change. And maybe it's part of our humanity where we struggle as we get older to be that change. But I mean, a lot of that change does come from our youth. So promoting that as promoting leaders of the future and doing that sooner than later is important.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think from our perspective at KYD Network and working with our cohort members and organizations, one of our goal areas with them is youth leadership. And one thing we suggest or recommend if they have the capacity is to form a youth advisory council. Us at KYD Network have our own youth advisory councils as well. And it's just, how can we tell them what they want to do? They have to let us know. So that's really, what it boils down to. But it's a big ask. So, we got the stepping stones to get to that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess we do work directly with youth in certain ways. But ultimately the vehicle is, the adult skills and relationships to get to the youth.
As someone who also doesn't work with youth directly, I keep hearing all of these little nuggets of like wisdom, and I remember that you said you've been working a lot internally with your own organization to make it a healthy place for all of you adults, and I'm seeing you all here sharing space really well. You're the executive director, but you're like, handing the mic over. So what are some of the things that you're doing in your workplace to that kind of makes it a better place to be for all of you, healthier and
we're excited about that. So we really, like I said, we practice what we preach. We really try to model and emulate and do, the things that we talk about. And so, we're like family. Our staff is really, we love each other, sincerely. And we support each other in our wellness. And wellness, looks different for everyone. Wellness is holistic. And so one of the things that we're doing right now is to try to make sure there's balance even within our schedule. We do a lot, we can be really busy, and that can cause burnout, and we don't, want to continue in that pattern. We want to do something different. And so we look at our schedules and try to, figure out places where we can pause and where we can rest, where we can do fun things together intentionally. In our meetings, we always incorporate social emotional learning. So there's some type of question that we ask to really connect with each other and get to know each other deeper and to check in with each other and see what's really happening, in our lives and how we can support each other. Before my current position, I was the director of wellness initiatives. And so we would do a lot of wellness challenges, like physical activity and nutrition and mental health care, things of that nature too. And I'm going to pass it on so they can, add more, but this is a topic we love.
I think we could probably all relate to workplace trauma. And so, we don't want to continue that, basically. But, it's hard because there's so many pockets that we're in. There's so many things that we do, but we can't do it if we're tired. We can't do it if we're eating McDonald's every day. No offense, if you gotta eat McDonald's, you gotta eat McDonald's. Okay. It's just about what you need to nourish your body. We have candy at the office, but there's also nuts. So
make it easy to make good choices.
Exactly.
I hear you. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's also just having accountability partners, and because the same thing that we ask our cohort members and our partners, a space to be vulnerable. People say, separate work and home, but I'm still the same human, so I don't know how to do that 100%. So it's just making space for vulnerability, but all of us here are so brilliant and our brains need rest. So that's really what it comes down to me. You know what you think?
What you think? Yeah, I would say definitely second everything they said. Time flies, so pretty soon I can no longer say I'm fairly new here anymore. But for me personally, being someone that, like I said, can't really say so much is new still, but having that welcoming environment, not carrying on that environment of that workplace trauma, has been very much just like promoting that wellness, that family bond, that IBA, going back to the identity, belonging, agency, that coming into a space like, hey, this is your space, make it how you want it. Hey, balancing your schedule, that flexibility, accountability, and not just like getting your work done, but no, like, how are you taking care of yourself? Like, you actually have a team of people saying like, hey, we do a lot. How have you been taking care of yourself? Also, we recognize you actually enjoy doing certain things too. So like, have you been doing this? You know, and things like that. So creating that type of culture, like we literally, like, I love it. So. Yeah.
We really do try to be authentic, like our authentic selves.
When
in everything that we do.
when you're doers, because I feel like a lot of times people that gravitate to positions like you're in, they're people that are constantly driven to do. But if you don't take the time, I mean, you're gonna lose some of that passion just because you're tired.
Yeah, literally.
Absolutely.
And it's important to take it, and it's good that you have accountability between yourselves. That's great.
Right. You can see the bags,
Yeah.
So just being real about it and taking care of yourself. Yeah. So
As we gather to a close, let's talk about how to get a hold of you. What's your website? What's your socials?
Absolutely. www.kydnet.org, KYDnet.org. We're on Facebook, Instagram. What else are we on? Those are our main two, but
I heard we have a TikTok, but I don't know.
What's the handle for Instagram?
Kid Network.
Kid Network. Okay.
Once again, KYD.
yes.
That's
And
right.
Yeah, we even make a little dance and chat.
But I guess to reach out to us, visit our website. You'll see all of our names and our emails there. And it's really, to me, it's a movement. You know, me and Abra once were teachers. She was a teacher a lot longer than I was. And I just value out of school time so much. It's so important to me. So, but we need partners, we need collaboration, because it wasn't until recently that the state of Michigan recognized out of school time as a area to fund. That's only happened in the past few years.
Really? That's shocking.
Yeah. But unfortunately, Southwest Michigan is not getting a lot of that funding.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just really important to us to get the word out and have people understand. It's hard to explain Kid Network, but just to build that understanding of the work that we're doing.
Yeah, wage equity in the out-of-school time sector has been a huge barrier, to bust. Because out-of-school time programs are underfunded, the workers, the people we call them youth development advocates, have passion, but there's not always pay that goes with that. And so we also advocate, for higher wages and compensation in general for youth development workers. So that's another hat.
Depending on where you're at, I mean, like, sure, the city has some programs for, Kalamazoo City, but like, it's not necessarily affecting the townships that are surrounded by it. And a lot of that programming through Kazoo Parks and Rec, some of it's only for city residents, or they have, additional fees for township residents, and that's. But if you don't live in an area that has that, I mean, that's such a challenge.
Exactly.
And so that's why the power of the collective is important, because we bring voice to all of the organizations that serve youth, even the grassroots, organizations that are just starting that have really great programming that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of. And so on our website, we have a program finder, so it lists all the organizations that are a part, and we try to spread that message, especially for summer, so families can realize that there are a lot of opportunities, a lot of great connective opportunities. We have programs that are building like entrepreneurial skills, of course, sports programs, arts programs, nature programs. There are programs of all different topics all over town. But just, some are really large organizations, some are small. They're all valuable. And so we help to, our goal is to bring that collective together, to network and to bring awareness to all of those great programs and to make sure that they're all high quality and to help them to recognize the amazing things they're already doing in the community. So,
Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really feel like, I only knew a sliver of what y'all did, and it's so good to have, this conversation with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again for having us. We really appreciate it.
Yes. So